Hi, I'm Matt Gleed, and welcome to the Matrix Fitness podcast. Today, I've got a very exciting guest. We have got a person who has been on the literally finger on the pulse of the industry for many years. I recently saw an incredible picture of him looking very young with long hair when he first started in the industry, which, oh, look, if you are seeing this in a visual sense as well, we've actually got the picture up. That wasn't even practice, that's great. But let me pass you over to Dr. Paul Bedford. Paul, introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about you.
Okay, hi, thanks Matt. Yeah, Dr. Paul Bedford, been in the fitness industry over 30 years now, so it makes me a veteran, and I know there'll probably be people listening to this and watching this that weren't even born when I came into the industry. But yeah, came into the industry as a gym instructor, worked in my local YMCA, started off as a volunteer, didn't even get paid to work in the gym, did it on the weekends, and eventually got a job, ended up being a fitness manager and then general manager of the whole facility before I then moved on to Central YMCA and became a senior lecturer for what was then fitness industry training. No, it wasn't. It's now fitness industry training. What was then YMCA training and development. And I spent 14 years there training people how to be personal trainers, how to be gym instructors, mostly on the fitness side rather than the Group X side, although I did help write and develop an indoor cycling course and a rowing course and collaborating with people like Concept 2 and Polar and all sorts, before eventually stepping away from that to study academically. Did a master's in exercise psychology, another one in social science research, and then did a PhD looking at how you apply psychological practices and behaviour change interventions to the onboarding process for gym members. So it was a randomised control trial. It was 12 months in length. It's one of the few that's only ever been done. And now I spend all my time looking at the industry through the focus of the customer experience and how do you keep customers for longer. So the business that I created is called Retention Guru, and we work on we work on 4 different continents. With operators of different sizes, so from really small studio and gym-based independent owners right the way through to someone as big as Anytime Fitness with their, they're in 17 countries, 7,000 plus locations, and obviously do that at a strategic level rather than a tactical level. But yeah, I spend all my time trying to find ways that operators can keep their customers for longer.
Well, it's certainly a long career because not many, I always feel like I've been in the fitness industry a long time, but I'm still a decade away from where you've been into it. So it's great that you've influenced it in all different levels as well, because I guess as part of that experience, you learn every year that goes on in the fitness industry anyway. So you must be literally everything that you've learned at first, you've relearned it, you've adapted, you've learned something new, and you're always applying what it is that you're learning into, I presume, your seminars and your talks and your work currently.
Yeah, and what's interesting is I'm training on a regular basis again now. And Matt, that I hurt my back for a while and was out, and I'm back training. And I train with a guy, my best friend. We train 3 mornings a week, and he's also an educator. He's also in the industry educating people in fitness. And every now and again, we were talking about like connective fiber tissues, and we were talking about muscle, the actin and myosin protein filaments sliding across one another, and how we could build hypertrophy. And he's like, I haven't talked about that stuff for about 14 years to anybody, but it's still in there. And I think one of the advantages I have is when I'm working with operators, because I've been in the industry a long time, so I can look back and go, oh, that was when that company became this company, or that equipment manufacturer used to make an electronic rowing machine back in the 90s, and now the one they make looks like a Concept 2. But I've got the experience of being an operator, of working as a practitioner, like a personal trainer, and the academic and psychological aspects that I learned at university. So I think it puts me in a unique position in terms of understanding the industry, and sometimes not understanding why people focus on one thing when I'm thinking, actually, if you want to achieve that as a goal, then you're focusing on the wrong thing. But humans, that's what we
Yeah.
have, lots of
No,
humans.
it's human error, and human emotions always come around as well.
Yeah.
Paul, I'd like to start off with talking about the current situation in the fitness industry, because obviously this COVID-19, which really kicked off in March 2020. I mean, we're now in the middle of September. There's a little bit unrest at the moment because there could be an imminent lockdown in the next sort of few days or few weeks again, which is obviously scaring a lot of people, in particular our industry. But you've actually been out and about over the last few weeks since the gyms have reopened, since the initial lockdown, and building confidence. What are you seeing out there, and what work are you currently doing at the moment?
Okay, so what I'm seeing is there's been, and from the clients that I've got, so from the operators that I work with on a yearly basis, talking to them, visiting their sites, somewhere between 40 and 60% of customers have returned at some level. Whether they're only visiting once a week or they're visiting at low frequency, they have returned and come back. Now, in some operators, as many as 40% of their customers have cancelled since lockdown. Now, I think some of that was panic because people didn't know what would happen. So it's like, how do I save money? Well, I'll cancel my membership. I think some of those were sleepers. Those were the people that were paying but not using. And suddenly it's like they weren't asleep anymore and they woke up and they cancelled. And some of those are starting to return. So I know, talking to some salespeople, they're saying, actually, sales are really good, but actually some of the sales we're making are to people who were members that cancelled. They're not all new members. But I'm seeing a decent amount of people returning in the clubs that I visit. And some of those are universities, public sector, some independents. I went to a single site independent last week. And they were talking there that, I think 60% of them carried on paying during lockdown. And now 70% have actually returned and are working out and are paying, and it's gradually going back up. My concern, I suppose, if there is for anything, is those people that I refer to as the scared, for no better term than that's simple to explain. These are people who are sort of saying things like, I'm not coming back till there's a vaccine. I'm not going to come back till we can cure this. I think that's going to leave some operators short of customers, because in the past that wasn't an issue, now it is. Other things I've seen, it's clean. Everyone's cleaning like mad. In fact, they're cleaning more in gyms than I've noticed if I've been out to restaurants or if I'm traveling and I've stayed in hotels. Yeah, everybody's cleaning. You go into gyms, it's almost, what I've seen is fanatical, proving or demonstrating, we're about clean, we're about clean, we're about clean, which is great. It's just a little bit disappointing that wasn't also true before lockdown. And I've noticed that members' behaviour generally is collaborative. I train, like I said, 3 times a week. We go in the morning, we get there at 7. There's a group of people we see almost every morning that we're in the same, but everybody's cleaning, everybody's wiping down. And this is in a low-cost operator where I think there has been some suggestions that, they won't abide, they're all millennials. Well, actually, all the people I see in the morning, they're not all millennials, but even millennial groups are cleaning. People are being polite, taking it in turns. And yeah, every now and again, someone forgets to wipe a machine down, but no one takes offence. And I've not seen anything that has been blatant disregard for the rules. I think the ones who've come back really, really want to train, and they're not going to do anything that's going to jeopardise their future training opportunities. So there are some issues. There are some issues around confidence going forward. Obviously, there's some issues around a second lockdown, which if I get a bit personal here, I think it's just scaremongering. I think it's just fear news to try and sort of go, if you don't do this, then you'll get this. Personally, I'm not convinced we need a second lockdown. I think this is something we've got to learn to live with. And if they're saying that the guidelines are wash your hands, cover your face, keep social distance, we can all do that. you know, I got to stop there, otherwise I'll get really political about, not political, but really emotional about, you know, 15 people died from DIY last week. You know, so do we shut all the B&Qs?
Yeah. No, I mean, it's also, I mean, the problem is there's a lot of people who are in this situation where they just want to do their work and they're being responsible about things. And, you know, there is almost a disgruntled percentage of the popularity, or the population, which are really thinking about, I don't want you, or you youngsters, as it was blamed at one point, or these people, or that type of group of people, to restrict what I'm personally going to do. And if people do want to go and exercise and want to go back to work, if everyone actually was acting responsibly, we would like to think we can all get by doing this. So I think I share your view on that as well. But it'd be interesting. So in your travels over the last, you know, weeks and months, then what are you seeing as the best practices? And I'm not just talking about the cleaning side of things, because I'm very aware that the gyms are cleaning, you know, meticulously, but what else is out there, and what are people doing successfully?
I think initially what people did, and it's something I was talking to a client last week about, was that when they reopened, they made a big effort to highlight the customers that were coming back. So one of the things I've said to all of my clients is, when someone returns, if they have a good workout, before they leave the building, first of all, go, how was your workout today? Because if they've had a good experience, you want them talking about that to you, because it makes them feel good. They want to talk about a positive experience. If it's been a good experience, you can talk about it, they can feel positive. If it's not been a great experience, at least they can feedback straight away. And even before they've left, they've given you an opportunity to go, okay, well, we'll rectify that, we'll change that, or we'll look into it. And then the thing of like, when are you in next? Because you'll want to prompt the next visit. And I encourage my clients to do it, and I've seen other people do it, but make little videos of that. You know, oh yeah, it's, you know, hi Matt, it's my first day back at Matt's gym. I was surprised how organised everything was, how clean everything was. And it was just really nice to be back and training. A lot of people did that in the first couple of weeks. They need to keep doing it. And some operators have kept doing it because the social norm of seeing that on a regular basis from different people. You know, I've been back 4 weeks now. I've not seen any issues. It's still as clean as it was. You don't want that dying away. So I think those little video testimonials done on an iPhone, done on your mobile phone, you don't need big editing, you know, big cameras and stuff. Just capture it. It feels more authentic. Keep posting that. I think the other thing to do is to continue to reach out to those customers who are sort of in the middle group. So you've got those people who are confident and are coming in and they're okay. Then you've got a group in the middle that I call cautious. They will come in, but they're the ones that are looking at everything and going, is it clean? Are they checking up on people? Are people following the rules? And the third group's the scared. But that middle group, the cautious, I'd still be calling those people. I'll be reaching out to them going, how's things getting on? You know, were you thinking of coming down and joining in again soon? You know, one operator I know has a block of time during the day. It's only for an hour, but it's like, it's just for people who haven't returned yet. So it's like, it's for your first visit. Come down, have your first visit. Because we know that psychologically, if you get exposed to an experience multiple times, if it's a threat experience, the fear of that threat diminishes the more times you're exposed to it. So it's a little bit like a phobia. If you're phobic of something, I'm going to make it a pen for this. If you have a fear of pens and I expose you to a pen, the longer I hold it in front of you, to start with, there's a real peak response. And then it starts to diminish till in the end, you're sitting and going, well, that's a pen, but I don't feel scared anymore, because your body just won't allow you to maintain that fear if it's not actually causing any damage or harm. And I think the same thing is, get people to come in, have the experience, get them to come in and keep reminding them of the benefits of exercise. So that would be the simplest thing. You know, question people on their way out to reinforce it, get them to come back and be making more testimonial videos from those people who are coming in, and then sharing those with these people who like the idea of training but aren't quite sure about coming back just yet. I think the scared group will remain scared for a while, and I think we just need to reach out to them and just say, look, we're still here. When you're ready, why don't you come back? But let us know when you're coming, and we can look after you when you come in.
Yeah, no, I think that's really good advice. And I think if I was to add advice to that, it would almost be, there's people who have been scared, and just because this has gone on for longer, if they still haven't returned, it doesn't mean that their emotional connection with fitness has changed. So they might still want to, and they might still be doing things at home, and they don't want to go into that public environment. But I mean, the likelihood is this is actually probably not just a short term, over the next few weeks we need to do this. This is probably something that needs to be here for quite a long term, and we should almost be putting into practices now what we're going to be doing in the future as well. I mean, where do you feel potentially that, you know, what could staff and facilities be doing to support the members who are either in the club at the moment, or the ones who would like to but they're still unsure? I mean, are videos enough? Do they need to be doing more than just calls?
I think if you're in the club, one of the things, you know, like as I mentioned, I train at a low cost, so there aren't many staff. But if you've got a facility that is staffed, one of the things that's more common at the moment is, because staff are moving around the equipment and they're cleaning the equipment, they're talking to customers. Now, I've always been a massive advocate of staff talking to customers, but you don't interrupt their workouts. But just making that attempt to going, how are you? Do you need anything? When you're finished, I'll come back and clean, or where you go next, I'll go and clean that. Those interactions have real value, because it starts to give you a sense of belonging and being part of something. Now, I know that the thing that myself and Keith do every morning is we say hello to a large group of people. So when we first went there, we didn't know anyone. We see the same people in the mornings. If you look at us, if you make eye contact with either of us, we smile and say good morning. And that's all we do to start with. And then over time, people get used to that and they start doing it back to us. I think staff need to do more of that. I think they just need to give that reassurance. Ask people, you know, what are you training today? You know, what's your goal for today's workout? Be interested in those customers that are coming in. Be curious. It's nothing that I haven't said that we shouldn't have been doing pre-COVID, but actually now while you're cleaning, you know, or you're moving around the facility, talking to customers, going, where are you going next? Oh, I'm going over on the seated row. Okay, let me go and clean the seated row so it's ready for you. And when they come over, say, so what are you doing? You're just doing regular sets, or are you doing drop sets? So you might ask a question that requires a thought for the answer. You know, oh, drop set, what are drop sets? Oh, let me just show you what a drop set is. And then you can engage with the customer, you know, educate them and make them feel confident. It's like, oh, here's someone who knows what they're doing. I think that the value of talking to people, we've demonstrated with our academic studies, the value of talking to people cannot be underestimated. But it is a real factor of interact, not interrupt. You know, someone's on a bench, 100-kilo bench, they're struggling. Now's not the time to ask them if they want it cleaned. You know, it's about timing.
Yeah, no, I think that's a really good one. Interrupting somebody is not what they went into the gym for. So, but interacting, I mean, everyone welcomes interactions, but not the interruptions. I think that's a really nice way to view, you know, what is your communication? Is it an interruption? In which case then, like, it's not a welcomed one most of the time, is it? People aren't, I don't think people are going to the gym in order just to do their social. I mean, I think we're all aware that people who are going into the gyms are there to work out now. And like you said earlier, it's probably the more serious people, and they might want to have a little chat here and there while they're doing a bit, but they're not really there for a social. I mean, they're not sitting down and having the coffees and the cake afterwards and, you know, doing those sort of things. And I think I understand that's missing in a lot of people's lives, but that's when it's like, well, if you want to do your workout, can I give you a call later if you just want to catch up? If you're feeling a bit stressed and lonely, I don't want to interrupt your workout. How about I'll give you a call at, you know, your 2:00 this afternoon time?
Yeah. And I think when we talk about serious exercises, I think sometimes it brings up this notion of people who are into really training hard and heavy and intensely all the time. And yet I see people who I would consider the club where I am, I see people who I would say are serious exercises because they're serious about their routine. It's like, it's something they do every morning. It's something, you know, and they don't work out particularly hard. They work out enough, they get their fitness results, but they're not serious in terms of they're doing a pre-workout shots or walking around with a tub of protein. They are serious to the level of, this is important to me because as part of my life.
Yeah, no, that's really interesting. So, Paul, you've obviously you've worked across the industry in a number of ways. You've been an operator, you've been a manager, you've done everything in the industry. If you had your own facility at the moment, can you give us some advice on what would your short-term, mid-term, and long-term almost vision be? What would you be working towards if I gave you your magic club today and you had the keys ready to open up? What would your strategy be at the moment?
I think my short-term strategy, we've got pretty much what I've described already in terms of interact and show they're clean. I think my medium to long-term would be looking at how I can, this is an operational side, make my club look and feel clean naturally. So when it walk in, it looks clean. You know, it needs cleaning, but it looks clean. It looks like we take care of it, and that doesn't diminish over the course of the day. So I think, you know, I'd be looking at bizarrely floorings and wall coverings and like, what can I use that's going to maintain this sense of cleanliness? I'd be certainly putting a lot more focus on building communities, making people feel like they belong. And I think there's a real opportunity right at the moment for the independent health clubs to do that. You know, those standalone sites run by somebody who's really into their training, they have an opportunity to really build out their community, not just for the hardcore trainers, but for everybody. And I'd certainly be looking at ways of myself building rewards programs, enhancing those with loyalty programs, maybe introducing some level of gamification, but based around visits, because that's the currency. That's what I want. I want them visiting. If they don't visit, they're going to stop paying. And, you know, looking to make things simple for the customer. I want that customer experience to be frictionless if I can. So if a new customer turns up, someone who's not trained before, new to exercise, an onboarding process that makes them feel confident, an early stages process that builds their skill level so they recognize that actually to be fit, I've got to learn some stuff. So it's not just about, can I lose weight? Can I lift more? It's like, what skills have I developed in the first few weeks? And then, you know, the way I look at things is, what can we do rolling that on as a program? I think the other thing I would do as well, and this won't work for everybody, is I'd look at establishing a limit to the total number of members. I'd want to limit. So my ideal club, if it would be somewhere between 1,000 and 3,000 members. What, depending on square meterage, square footage, I'd be going, okay, this club is for 1,000 customers. I've got a fixed amount so that I can build up to 1,000. I can say to people, when we get to 1,000, we're not selling any more memberships, because I really want to create that. I'd rather have 1,000 really loyal people than 4,000 transient that come and go and come and go. I want to build that community, and I'd really focus on, you know, my local area and pulling from that local area. Those are the things I'd be working on.
So, I mean, that's a very interesting one, because a lot of clubs don't have that philosophy. And I know some operators will have a limit as to how many based on square footage, the amount of pieces of machinery or stations, as they would call it. So if you were to have that sort of capped membership, would you be pushing the benefits of that constantly? So people were feeling like they were in that exclusive club and they had everything that they needed, and create that almost waiting list to join that. You know, if we have 10 people this year who do decide to leave us, we will open up 10 spots only, and you know, you want that 2 to 3 year waiting list to get in.
Yeah, I would. And look, if I'm commissioning salespeople to make sales, every time they make a sale, for them, and I do respect sales, but for them, it doesn't matter whether they stay or not, because they got their commission. Now, in the last club that I ran, we had a sales guy called Ash. He was really, really good, and he was on commission. We didn't have any personal training in that club. We just had fitness staff, and that was my choice. And people would come along and go, "Oh, can we open our personal training business here? And can we do?" And I'm like, "No, we don't have personal training," because what we had was a commission-based system for the fitness staff. Now we knew, because I was able to do the analytics, that the average length of stay of our customers was 6 months, and we had about 3,500 customers. We split those 3,500 customers up into gym users and studio because we had the data. Of the gym users, each one of the gym instructors had a group of about 500 customers that they were personally responsible for. Because we knew they stayed 6 months, we said to the staff, if that one of those people stays for 7 months, we'll give you £1. If 2 of them stay for 7 months, we'll give you £2. So they had the potential to, after 6 months, they had £500 of their salary every month if we kept customers. Now, if they stayed to month 8, we'd give them another £1. And we built it out. So they could actually, by being really good gym floor fitness attendants, they were level 2 and level 3 qualified, but they didn't want to be personal trainers, but they loved being in fitness. They could earn an extra £500 a month doing what they liked doing, which was talking to and helping customers. And we grew our membership. We ended up having an average length of stay of 18 months, at which point the owners went, actually, we want to move the commission basis out to, if you can keep them for 18 months, then we'll give you £1. And I said, no, you can't do that. We established it at 6 months. We're going to go from there. But the argument I put across to them was, look, it only costs you £1 to keep that customer. Yet you pay Ash £15 for every customer he signs up. I said, so we refocused it, and I get it. And I get it. If you're a salesperson, I'd want to sell as many as possible. Yeah. But it's not always the way in which the business grows. And I think sometimes you have to recognize that actually there is a limit. What is the limit? Now, that club, 3,500 customers. Now, there's a potential. You go, well, actually, if I want more customers, I'll open another club. I'll just replicate it with another club rather than keeping driving the sales process constantly. I recognize that in a lot of cases, you don't ever get to that. But I have 2 clubs or operators I work with at the moment that are both operating waiting lists to join, even now. Because they've changed the way they're thinking. They're going, look, when we get to this amount, we're going to shut the doors. And in fact, one of them was only selling about 12 to 30 memberships a month. Put in a note saying, when we get to this amount, I can't remember what their amount was now, we're going to close the doors and make it membership only. But as soon as they closed the doors, they had 192 people on their waiting list. Because now you couldn't wait to join. Actually, those people are thinking, oh, I've been thinking about joining, I'll think about joining. They joined.
Yeah.
So it is a very different way of thinking, but that would be the approach I would look for. I think there is a finite number of people you can get in a business without you actually accelerating the churn and deteriorating the experience.
I think it's a really interesting concept, because I think if you take the current situation at the moment, where a lot of the sleeper members that you've mentioned before probably have woken up and they've deactivated their memberships, that actually would account for a lot of people. So you wouldn't be paying for a membership at the moment if you weren't using it. It's very unlikely that the people who have slept through maybe the last year, and they maybe have used it once or twice a month, they've probably turned around and said, I'm not going to use it. I'm going to work out at home and do online or whatever. Now, I think if the scenario you're almost introducing there, it's not a real introduction, because it has gone on for years. I remember clubs which were exclusive. I mean, the typical examples are the golf clubs, the hotel chains, and providers like that. And actually, the low budget sector have had those sleepers members for quite a long time. Maybe when they're saying, oh, we're up to 60% of the membership, maybe 40% were actually asleep. And now, if they were to relook at their numbers, it could be a very interesting, calculation. And you'd have to have a bit of a bit of focus about yourself to go out and do it. But it could be a very interesting concept to really launch especially in the mid-market sectors, I would have thought.
Yeah, and Well, some of the ones I'm describing were hotels as well. You know, they had hotels. One bizarre experience I had with an operator who's hotel based was they couldn't earn any more commission monthly because all their commission within the business was based on sales. They couldn't sell anymore because the club was full. Just bizarre. It's like, we've got the club to a point where we can't squeeze any more people in, but now I can't earn any commission because you only structure the commission based on sales. You don't structure the commission based on retention. When we do our workshops with clients and when we do our retention academies, one of the things we do a task called 0-0. And it's 2 phases. The first 0, what would you do to keep your customers if no new customers ever walk through the door? So imagine you can't sell anymore. There is no more customers and you've got your membership base. How long would you survive? You know, first of all, if they carried on leaving at the same rate, where would you get to a point where it was no longer viable as a business? Where would you start having to start laying people off? What would you do to try and keep them? So we do that as a task. Then the second task is, how long would it be if no one ever left? How long would you keep selling if no one ever left? And what we found is that when you do the numbers, and we've taken clients' numbers out and done the analysis, they're usually somewhere between 5 to 7 months between going out of business and 4 to 5 months between hitting their target if none of the customers ever left. Yeah. So there's this sort of really precarious business model that is, if they stop coming in, we'll fall over. If they stop leaving, we'll hit maximum really, really quickly. And right at the beginning of lockdown, someone messaged me and said, Paul, we're currently doing the 0-0 task and it's true on both counts. No one's leaving because we've frozen everybody, but no one's joining. And now we're trying to work out how long we'll survive with the pool of money that we've got.
Yeah, I mean, that really gets down to your business model there, doesn't it? I mean, you know, if you shut the back door behind you, you know, you're not losing members. That's a great position to be in. So that gives you great focus. So Paul, maybe we can just touch on just briefly about what people can do digitally, because there is obviously a lot of the conversation we've had so far is about talking to members in the club, maybe doing some short videos to show people on social media, almost seem like an exercise there as well. But do you think that the use of technology, which is definitely, you know, going to be a big factor in fitness going forwards, what could operators do to almost support a digital side of retention?
My approach would be, first of all, is if you've adopted something during lockdown. So I'll give you an example of one of my clients. One of my clients has 2 large locations, 2 small. They're public sector. So they've got 2 large leisure centres and 2 mixed-use facilities, so adjacent to schools. They have about 3,500 customers across those sites. When lockdown occurred, they immediately froze everybody's membership and said, we're not going to charge you, we're going to freeze it for everybody. In fact, they did it before lockdown. They did it on the Friday before we all got locked down on the Sunday or the Monday. They then went out and they found a technology supplier to provide them with online training for their customers. So pre-recorded, streamed content. They made that available to all of their customers. Now, we followed up with the questions like, after the first 2 weeks, how many of those customers had actually even signed up for those accounts? So out of the 3,500, what proportion of them actually signed up? And it was 10%. So 10% signed up. Now, after that, we looked at how often they used it. And of the 10% that signed up, only 10% used it on a frequent basis. Now that begs the question, well, it begs a number of questions that we've not been able to answer just yet. One of them is, was it the right offer to the clients that they've got? You know, so you're saying, we've got an online offer. Do the clients even want an online offer in there? And it doesn't appear that the vast majority either wanted it or had access to it. Then was the content wrong? So while they wanted it, actually what was being offered wasn't the content they wanted. and I have made a couple of digs, you know, how many more burpees do I need to see? It's almost like every piece of online content starts with a burpee, and I'm like, where in the warm-up continuum does a burpee progress? You know, that's the workout. But it's like, is the content right for the group? Then, you know, your question, would the people who watched it have preferred their own instructors that they recognise as opposed to something pre-recorded? Now, we haven't found out all of that yet, but we're digging into that. We're doing quite a number of projects on that. But those are the things I'd look at. You know, I'd go back and review how have customers been using any technology that you put in. Because if I'm a technology provider, I am going to tell you the future of this industry is technology. If I'm a bricks and mortar supplier of some sort, I'm going to say bricks and mortar's here forever. I think they'll all be here. I think what we have to recognise is we're having to share customers more frequently with other types of providers, not just another physical provider, but perhaps a digital provider. I do think, you know, I think University of York or York University, they had a really big uptake in online activities when their staff taught classes. I think they did it YouTube Live. Really basic, single camera, member of staff that they recognised, felt part of the community. Other people have preferred to do stream things like, you know, Les Mills or Wexar or, you know, products that Matrix have provided. So I don't think there's a one size fits all. I think there's going to be, we offer this and you need to stick to it, but you need to find out from your customers what type of customer they want, a client content they want from you. Is it your content live? Is it your content but pre-recorded, or don't they care and they want someone else's live or someone else's recorded? It's a real...
Well, you see a really big difference in productions as well, because there's obviously, you know, like you said, the Wexers, you've got the Les Mills, you've got Apple who are coming in. I mean, there's all of these companies who are going to put in a lot of production value into their offering. But actually, you're 100% right. There is the local instructor who you go to his class 2 or 3 times a week because you love the way that he teaches the class, and everyone else has got it wrong because they're just not him. They're just going to want him. And they don't care if he's at home, you know, in his shed on his turbo trainer, as long as he's teaching that indoor cycling class, that those members are happy. And I think it's really interesting. When everybody went digital, why did they pick the option they gave? Was it because it was what they thought, or was it actually out of evidence or research? That's a very interesting point.
Yeah. So I know, you know, I've had several operators who, again, who I work with, come back to me saying, how do we evaluate the impact of what we've done? And I've shown them how to evaluate it, and in some cases I'm evaluating for them. But you know, let me just give you my situation. So I go to the gym, I train at a low-cost gym. Would I go to a more, you know, do I have access to other gyms locally that I could pay for? Yeah, we've got 17 gyms in Croydon that I could go to, from a David Lloyd and some golf clubs right away. You know, we've got 2 Pure gyms, 3 Gym Group, some warehouse gyms, Nuffield, we've got everybody. And I choose to go locally to the gym, and I pay low cost. But also in this, where I'm sitting, I'm in my office off to one side, I've got one of the old Matrix ICG bikes, the belt drive ones. And I love that. And I do my cycling here. Now, I said earlier on, I wrote indoor cycling courses. I used to teach people to teach those classes. And I used to teach those classes live in different venues across London. Would I currently go to a live indoor cycling class? No, I'm not interested. What I want to be able to do is when I finish work, get changed, jump on my bike, and I do Peloton. And people will be aghast and go, oh, you're supporting Peloton. Peloton have got a really good product and I like it. And they go, you should go to your local leisure centre. I said, no way on earth am I ever going. But I still go to the gym. I still go and train on my mountain bike outside. And so different operators get a share of me. You don't get me exclusively anymore. And I think a lot of operators think that customers belong to them. And I'm like, no, you have to think of the other, you belong to the customer. The customer chooses you. And I think we should stop using the term customer and we should start using the term patrons, because what people are, they patronize an organization. They say, I'm going to give you some money as long as you give me what I want. I've only started thinking like that in the last few days, but I think there needs to be this share, and some customers will want to buy their real world experience from an operator and their digital experience from the same operator. Others will want it in other formats.
Yeah, I think that's really interesting, because I know personally I've gone to an Orange Theory facility for over the last year. I've also had my gym membership at a low cost operator, and if I wanted a yoga workout, I would go to a yoga, because I want a gym for the gym and I want a yoga for my yoga, and I want my I just turn up and do the workout where I want it. I think that members these days are shared across different operators, and I think it's naive of operators to try and offer absolutely everything. There's nothing wrong with being a specialist with a good at everything else. You don't have to be the best at everything. So
So we did a report called the Black Report back in 2014, where we interviewed 1,000 customers who'd been members, and we videoed them, who'd been members of 2 or more gyms, and we asked them, how did you choose your first one? What made you join? Why did you stay? Why did you leave? How did you choose second one? Why did you join? Why did you stay? Why did you leave? And some of them had more than just 2 memberships, but between them they had 6,500 years of gym member experience. And when you talk to the Group X people who predominantly do Group X, they say the first time when they're naive, they go to a club and someone goes, here's our timetable. We've got 120 classes. They're like, wow, because their perception is, I've got so much choice, I can go and do this and do this. They said when they get to their second club, they've learned they like yoga. And someone goes, we've got 120 classes. And they go, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You've got 6 yoga classes and 2 of them I can't do. So they don't look at the timetable as being 120. They look at what they like. And I think in the way that you described it, people now go, actually, if I really like yoga, I'm going to go to someone who's really good at yoga. Now, if that's in the same facility, that's fine. But if it's not available there, then they're going to go somewhere else. So it is a challenge, and there is all this idea of, can you put boutiques inside big boxes, and that's working well for some. But I do think there's this share of customer now.
Yeah, I think you're right, and I think for today's topic of retention, I think it's time for operators to wake up a little bit and actually start thinking about what do their members actually want, rather than this is what we were led to think that they've wanted for this long. There is a reset button that has definitely been pressed in the fitness industry, and I think it's very interesting how people will operate their facilities differently going forwards, or will they rely on the legacy? Because it's fine for people like yourself who have been working for 30 years, but you've built up your legacy of where your beliefs are. But even you can understand, well, hang on, there's got to be a reset, because as technology comes in, as different operators offer different specialities, there is a difference in the offering now. So very, very interesting times.
And I think we'll also see, and I think we already see it, there are some operators that exist very, very well without really any technology apart from what they need to run their business. Their swipe controls and things like that. Because the type of customer that they've got doesn't require an online presence. They just want to go in, do what they want to do, and they want to leave. Whereas, others will use that technology to build community, build relationships, build out the experience. It's so not one-dimensional.
No, it's brilliant. Well, I mean, Paul, this has been a fantastic catch up with you, because your insight is so focused on retention, but built out of, like we've said today, a legacy of experience. But at the same time, the forward direction that you've offered in your views has been great. And hopefully a lot of people will watch this and start to think and provoke some conversations internally about what direction they really want to go into. So are there any sort of final words that you'd like to, advise operators on?
I would just say, talk to your customers in any format, whether it's digital, face-to-face, telephone. Talk to your customers, try and get an understanding of where they're at, and then look to see you know, what you can do to support that. I think we are going to have a more, you know, we've got more turbulent times coming up with all of the conversations that are going on about second lockdown, second wave. I think we're going to be fine. It's going to be a pendulum swinging from side to side for a while. Eventually, it'll pretty much reset, and we'll just have to learn to live with the situation we're in. That probably includes lots of cleaning, lots of sanitizing, social distancing. But people who want to train will want to train, and they'll always want to train. They'll find a way. It's almost like the human experience.
Yeah, brilliant. Well, Paul, that's fantastic advice, everybody. So thank you very much for joining us today, and I'm sure a lot of people will get a lot of benefit from this as well.
Thank you very much, sir. Take care.